Are you looking to move to the Seattle metro area and you want to know the most affordable suburbs in the Seattle area? Well, stay tuned. This video, I'm going to tell you all about the top 10 most affordable suburbs in the Seattle area. Hey everybody, my name is Tova Williamson. I'm a local real estate agent in the Seattle metro area. And on this channel, I shoot tons of videos of what it's like to live in the Seattle area. So if those are videos you want more of, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and click that little bell so you'll be notified every time a new video comes on. We get reach outs every day from people moving to the area. We absolutely love hearing from you. We love helping you. We love telling you all about the city, but we can't help unless you call. So give us a call, email, text. We got your back when you're moving to Seattle. So today I am going to talk about the top 10 most affordable suburbs in Seattle. So when compiling this list, I was mostly looking at housing prices. I think for the most part, Seattle's expensive. That's not a surprise at all. But I think for the most part, the housing is like that big ticket item that makes the big difference. I think as far as groceries and some things, depending on like the area that you live, you're probably gonna be fairly comparable to Seattle, but like the housing costs and gas probably are like the biggest things that you'll see like the most noticeable difference being like Seattle versus some other areas. So just to give a point of reference, Seattle's median home prices right now are around $800,000 for a single family home. And then condos, you're looking at about $520,000. So just to think of that, like what you can get in Seattle versus what you're going to get in some of these other areas. So let's dive right in. The first one I'm going to talk about is Auburn. So let's pull up a map here. Auburn is a city that is just southeast of downtown Seattle. It's kind of known as the gateway to Mount Rainier. So it's right here. Let's zoom out so you can see. So Seattle's right up here. Auburn's way down here, just southeast, not on I-5. A lot of the suburbs that you'll see and people want to be near I-5. So it's a little bit over to the east of I-5, but so it sits right around here, and then Tacoma's down here. And then you've got Mount Rainier, which is further down. So Auburn's got the largest outlet mall in the Pacific Northwest. It's known for that. So if you're into shopping and you want to find really good deals, Auburn's your place. It's got a really awesome outlet mall. It's got a historic downtown area with a ton of cute little restaurants. They've got a ton of events year round. They have a Veterans Day parade that they do annually. They have like an annual Kids Day, which is just like a big festival for kids. They've got a big 4th of July festival. So it's a pretty happening place. There's a lot going on. The population is about 85,000. So it's a pretty decent sized city. It's not like a tiny, tiny little town. Like when you look at that map, it looks like it's really far out, but all those areas like bleed into each other. It's all just like suburban sprawl. So you're not just like in the middle of nowhere. There's still plenty going on there. The downtown is really charming and cute, and they're really trying to kind of revamp that and keep it like the historical vibe going on, but then still keeping it like fresh and new. So there's plenty to do there. They've got a performing arts center. There's an Auburn Symphony Orchestra. So you definitely have some like cultural activities there as well. You're not just going to have to like go to Seattle all the time. Obviously for some of that bigger stuff, you'll want to go to Seattle and Tacoma, but for what it is and for what it's got, Auburn's got a lot happening just right in its a little town area. So the median home price in Auburn is $629,000 for a single family, and then $372,000 for a condo. And what you're going to find in most of Auburn is pretty suburban lifestyle. Like maybe some parts of downtown, you can get some of that urban feel, but for the most part, it's going to be suburban. You're going to be driving in your car to get places and be pretty car centric. The school district ratings in Auburn, they get a B+. This is according to niche.com, which is a great website I recommend checking out. You can enter different cities and areas, and it will give you like ratings for all sorts of stuff. So school rating, they give it a B+. This is for the school district in general. So obviously, you're looking at more specific schools. Some might rate higher, some might rate lower, but this is just the average of the school district as a whole. When we talk about the crime rating, this is also a rating that I get through niche.com. So they rate as a C for crime. So not great, but not terrible. They're highest in motor vehicle theft and rape are both higher than the national average in Auburn. So not super great, but people that were polled on safety in the city, 68% said they felt pretty safe living in Auburn. So that's not too bad. Like definitely more than half of the people that live there feel pretty safe living there. So talking about the commute to downtown Seattle, you're looking at about 30 minutes without traffic. That's just like not commuting times, but you're looking at probably 40 minutes to an hour and 20 minutes with traffic. And I'm going to pull up this map again just to see the route that you would take. And it all depends on where obviously you're coming from Auburn, but you've got to get over and then up I-5. Because if you go up this 167, it's a really small freeway. Like it's not big. I-5 is much larger, which means more cars, but that's going to be the main way that you're going to take to get into Seattle. They also have a Sounder train. So there's the Sounder train station. So the Sounder, it's just a train. It goes, it's not like the light rail or anything that runs all the time. It runs very much like to commuters' hours in the morning and the evening. And it goes into King Street Station in Seattle, which is, these are light rail stations. This is not right. But King Street Station is just south of downtown. Here, it's like where the Amtrak trains go into. So that's where the Sounder goes into. So if you're working in the downtown area, that could be an option. Then you're not having to like sit in traffic for an hour sometimes, especially if weather's bad or there's an accident. So that could definitely be an option if you are working in the downtown area. So number 2 that we're going to talk about is Kent. Kent is also in the southern part, which is just south of Seattle. So you see Auburn here. Kent is just a little bit north. Kent is actually a pretty big suburb. It's the 6th largest city in Washington. The population is 134,000 people about. So it's a pretty good sized city. Like I didn't honestly realize how many people it had. I thought it was just a smaller suburb as far as population goes, but it stretches, it's pretty large. The downtown area is right around here. It's got this historic downtown center. And then there's also Kent Station, which is like an outdoor urban mall area that they've just built up. And that's more like modern. So the downtown area has like this old and new kind of like split personality going on. But the downtown is really cute and charming. And you can find some really cute, like charming craftsman homes in the area too. And then the further out you get from downtown, then it's definitely going to be more suburban and more like the 1970s, like split level ranch, 1980s type of homes that you'll see a lot. And then some new construction too. But the one benefit of Kent is it's close to the airport. You've got SeaTac Airport here. You've got Seattle further up, and then it's close to Tacoma too. So some people that work in Tacoma might choose to live in Kent also. So it's kind of this in between. And then it's close to I-5, parts of Kent, because Kent comes over here too. You can't see, but, and then you've got the 167. So it's kind of a pretty decent, like central location as far as like the airport and Tacoma and the other things around it. It's also a very culturally rich and diverse city. It has over 138 world languages, which is like crazy. So you see that just in the different shops and stores and restaurants that are around there. It's a very diverse area, which is kind of cool. Like you get all sorts of different styles and flavors and everything. So it's a really diverse. If you're looking for diversity, Kent's going to be your jam. It's also home to the Showwear Center, which is where the Women's Hockey League plays. So there's some good stuff going on there too, like pretty exciting, some cultural activities. The median home price in Kent is about $622,000 for a single family home. Condos are $385,000. So again, similar to Auburn, much better than Seattle. You get a much bigger house for the price down there. The school district rating is a B- according to Niche. So again, not too bad for schools, pretty decent school ratings. Again, it depends. I think there's some like elementary and middle schools that rate lower and then some that rate higher, but as a whole, it gets a B-. Crime rating, it gets a C for crime. Burglary, theft, murder, rape, like both violent crime and nonviolent or violent crime and property crime are both higher than the national average in Kent. So that's kind of a bummer. 48% of people that were polled said that they feel safe living there. So not the best stats, but I think there's some areas that are a little safer than others. The commute to downtown, you're looking at about 30 minutes to an hour with traffic, just all depending on the day and the time. Again, they've also got the Sounder train there. That's about 27 minutes. So you can catch it a little further up. And then one thing to note too is the light rail, it runs down to the airport right now. It goes from Seattle to the airport. It even goes north of Seattle, but it goes down to the airport, and they're building a light rail stop in Kent, which will be, so this is downtown Kent, but the light rail goes along I-5. And so the light rail stop is going to be right around here, I believe, near this Star Lake. Yeah, so there's going to be a stop right here. It was slated for 2024. Now with everything taking longer, it's probably going to be like 2025, but that's something that's like they're gearing up for, and that's going to be a really like great thing for the city, I think, to connect it. And then we'll probably, I would imagine, see home prices start to rise just once that light rail station opens up. More and more people feel a little more connected, and it might bring more people to the area. So number 3 city that we're going to talk about is Federal Way. So if we keep looking down south, we'll see Federal Way. So it sits right around here, which is just in between kind of like Tacoma, Kent, Auburn, what we were talking about. So Federal Way's got their downtown area. It's not the most happening downtown. I feel like the light rail is going to be coming here as well. And so I think with the light rail coming, they're getting more like things going on downtown, but it's not somewhere that was really known for their downtown, honestly. Like Kent, Auburn have like these cute, charming ones. Federal Way, it's just kind of like not the most exciting. So I think it'll change, hopefully, with the light rail coming, but right now it's just very, very suburban feeling. Federal Way goes out into this area too. So up around here, you can find really great ocean view, water view properties. And then there is a mix of some condos as well. It's got quite a few parks in the area. You can see all the green. You've got Dash Point State Park over here. So just one thing to keep in mind, if you're going to any of the state parks, you'll need a discovery pass to park. It's like a little thing you put in your mirror. They cost about, I don't even know, like $20 maybe, 20, 30. You can just, when you renew your car registration, you can add the Discovery Pass onto it. That's just what I do every year. You can also pay for it separate, but it's something, if you like to go to parks and like go out exploring, it's definitely worth just getting that pass. Because I think parking in some of those parking lots is like 10 or $15, and then the Discovery Pass is like 20 or 25. So it's like you go twice and you pay for it, and that's good for a year. So definitely worth getting, especially if you're going to parks a lot. Also, one thing to know is Federal Way is home to Wild Waves, which you see it coming off the freeway on I-5. It's like a giant water park. It's one of the only ones in the area, I think. So that's like this big draw to the area, is that Wild Waves theme park. Federal Way's population is about 99,000 people. So again, it's a pretty big city. It's very suburban. Like I said, it all runs in, like then it kind of runs into Tacoma and some of the other areas. So it's quite a few people there. Like it's a big city. There's all of like the big box stores that you're going to want and need, everything that you're going to need for your day-to-day as far as groceries and shopping. Anything you can't get, you can pop into Tacoma really easy. Probably going to be the closer area for some of that versus going into Seattle. The median home price in Federal Way, you're looking at about $562,000 for a single family home, and then $332,000 for condos. So way better prices than Seattle. You can get most of the homes that you're going to see there are like, again, those 70s, 80s, like split level, like ranch styles, which are really common in the area. And then there is some more new construction too going on here and there, but definitely more suburban vibe for sure in Federal Way. School district rating, they get a B-. So again, pretty decent schools. The crime rating is a C. They're higher in robbery and theft than the national average. 61% of people polled, though, said they feel pretty safe living there. So pretty decent numbers as far as just the perception of safety in the area. And then the commute to downtown, you're looking at about 35 minutes to an hour and 15, just depending on the day. And you can take the bus, which is about an hour. There's not, let's pull this up again. The Sounder doesn't go into Federal Way. I don't believe. You'd have to go over to the Auburn, drive over to Auburn. So there are buses that you can take up, or you could like drive further and get on that Sounder. But a light rail stop is coming to Federal Way, but it just won't be for like a couple more years. So then let's just jump on into number 5, which is Tacoma. So Tacoma just sits right down here. Let's zoom out so you can just see where Seattle is. Tacoma is an area that's really, really gotten popular over the last several years, especially with prices rising in Seattle. People have been going to Tacoma because it's still a really large city. It's the third largest city in Washington state. Population is 219,000. So, I mean, it's its own city. You can live and work in Tacoma. It's got tons of stuff going on. They've got the Tacoma Dome. They've got a ton of museums. There's the Museum of Glass. They've got a car museum. They've got a minor league baseball team, the Rainiers. They've got minor league hockey. So they've got a lot of stuff going on in Tacoma all on its own. UW has a campus there. So it's been a big draw for people to the area just to move there because houses are cheaper. But then Tacoma still has very much like that city feel, that neighborhood feel that you get in Seattle. Like some of these other areas are definitely more suburban. You don't really have that big city feel, but Tacoma, you can still get that neighborhoody walk to coffee, walk to breweries, walk to bars kind of neighborhood feel. So that's been a draw for a lot of people. I think over the years, Tacoma's always had a bad rap. Like whenever I bring up to Tacoma to people, they're like, oh, I always heard that was like this terrible place. And I mean, there are good parts and bad parts of Tacoma for sure, but it's definitely changing a lot. It's growing. And there's just been a big renewed interest in the area just because housing prices are so much better. And one thing to note about Tacoma, you'll find like Seattle has a lot of like 1920s old craftsman, like super charming, cute houses. And those are what's really popular for people in the area. Those are the homes that get like snatched up really fast. And Tacoma, you'll find a lot of those cool, old, charming houses, which some of the other suburbs you don't always have, or maybe not as many. So that's a big draw too, is finding these charming little charmer craftsmen and bungalows. Tacoma was originally going to be, when they were like developing this area, Tacoma was going to be like the major hub instead of Seattle. So they were like putting all this money into Tacoma. And then I don't know, but for whatever reason, Seattle started getting like all the attention. And so they just built up Seattle. But because of that, you can find some really, really old, cool houses in Tacoma. Like most of the houses in the older parts of Seattle are like maybe early 1900s, 1920s, but Tacoma, you can find some stuff even from like the 1890s and like early 1900s. So that's just been a big draw too. Like people buy up these old houses and like just renovate them and fix them up and stuff. So that's something to keep in mind. Tacoma is not what it used to be. It's changing, it's growing. If you ever watched the 10 Things I Hate About You, that movie, there's the school in that movie, if you're familiar at all, like this cool old, like big brick building that's in Tacoma. So you can like drive by it and look at it. Like, I don't know, I just love old style buildings. So I just thought that was really cool. One thing I have to mention is Tacoma has a paper mill in it, which if you know anything about paper mills, they stink. They don't smell good. And so it's called the aroma of Tacoma that it's known for. It doesn't always smell there. Like some days if the wind blows right, like you get a whiff. It's not always like, I've been in Tacoma a lot and a lot of times you don't even smell it. But then some days you're like, oh, smell that aroma of Tacoma. So just something to keep in mind. Like some areas are worth, but if you're in Tacoma and you smell like that smell of doo-doo, it's the paper mill in Tacoma. So anyways, Tacoma is a big like metropolitan area, pretty big. There's plenty to do there. The median home prices in Tacoma are about $440,000. So just like way less, like half the price of Seattle that you can find there. And then condos are about $352,000. And there's a good mix of both. You've got houses, condos, townhouses. You have that urban lifestyle. It's mostly pretty urban. Trying to think, like even if you go out, like some might feel more suburban, but you're not getting like super rural in Tacoma. The school district rating, they've got about a B- on niche.com. So not bad for schools. Again, it varies like neighborhood to neighborhoods. Tacoma's a bigger city, so you're definitely going to get like nicer neighborhoods and not as nice neighborhoods, and the schools get affected in those, unfortunately, too. So, but overall, they get a B-. Crime rating, they get a C-. So Tacoma scored higher than the national average on all counts of violent crime and property crime, and 53% of people polled there said they felt pretty safe living in Tacoma. So not the best, kind of a mixed bag. Again, I think it's all dependent on where you are and what neighborhood you're in. But overall, the crime rating's okay. The commute, that's what's the real sticker is the commute from Tacoma. You're looking at probably like an hour, 45 minutes to an hour and a half, especially if traffic's bad. Tacoma's had road construction on the freeways for like, I don't even know, like 20 years. It's been going on forever. So Tacoma's always just been this like choke point of terrible traffic. If you're ever going like on I-5 and you're trying to leave the city and get out and like go out of town for the weekend, you're almost always going to get stuck in Tacoma. Like it's just how it is. They've finished the traffic or they've finished the construction. So, I mean, maybe it's better. I don't even notice. I feel like it still sucks, but the traffic there is not fun. There is, again, a sounder that goes up into Seattle. So you can take that. There's 2 stops in Tacoma. The light rail is also slated to be coming into Tacoma, but that's like years off. It's going to be, I think, like 2040 or something. So I wouldn't bank on that too much. It's going to still be a while. So that's kind of the sticker with driving from Tacoma. It's just terrible. If you maybe work remote or something part-time, it's a little bit better, but yeah, that commute's just brutal. So next city we're going to talk about is Bremerton. That's number 5. So now instead of being down south, we are going to go west. So Bremerton sits just right over here, west of downtown Seattle. It's located in Kitsap County. You take a ferry to get there. You can drive around. Not fun, but so Bremerton's a small like naval shipyard town. There's a shipyard that's here that has a lot of jobs, but it's really growing. Like the whole Kitsap County is really growing to become like a commuting area to Seattle because of the ferries. They've really like pumped a lot of money into the ferries and the fast ferries to get people to move out there and like kind of billing it as this commuting place between Seattle and Kitsap. So the area has seen a ton of growth over the last few years, but it is still a pretty small town. The population of Bremerton is about 44,000 people. So you definitely have that small town feel. And then once you're out here in Kitsap, like you can get really rural really fast. Like you're really close. That's the nice thing about this area in Bremerton is you're super close. I mean, there's water almost everywhere you look, and then you're on basically the peninsula. So to get to a lot of these areas, Olympic National Park, Poulsbo, Port Townsend, Port Angeles, some of these areas that are really popular for tourism in the summer, you're just really close. You don't have to deal with like the ferry because you're already over there. So the area sees a lot of tourism in the summer from people in Seattle, but living there, you're just close to a lot of it. The downtown is pretty small and quaint. It's a charming little area. There's some condos down there. Most is going to be single family homes, not a ton of townhouses even really, maybe a few. But so Bremerton kind of encompasses this whole area, and the downtown sits right here, right by the ferry terminal. So they've got a couple movie theaters down there. There's the Admiral Theater, which has some concerts and shows, and they do movies there. They have a First Friday art walk. So there are some cultural like activities to do, but it can be pretty sleepy too. I mean, everything kind of shuts down around 8, 9 o'clock there. The median home price though is $432,000 for single family, and then condos are about $245,000. So much less expensive than Seattle. And with all of the water around in Bremerton, you can find ocean or water view properties pretty easy. They're not, I mean, they're going to be more than $432,000, but definitely less than what you're going to get in Seattle. Like Seattle, anything with water views like $1 million, you can find way less in Bremerton. So it's kind of a good in between. The school district rating, it gets a B- for schools, and then the crime rating, it gets a C. So they are highest in motor vehicle theft is really high. Same with burglary and rape. They are higher than the national average on those fronts. 57% of people polled said that they feel pretty safe in the area. And then the commute to downtown, and pull up the map again. If you drive around, you're looking at like an hour and a half, 2-hour drive. It's terrible, especially because you have to go through Tacoma. Like I said before, it's just rough. So if you have to drive, you're driving all the way down here. You cross this bridge right here, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. You pay a toll. It's about $5-6, depending if you have a pass to get over, and then you're going to sit in traffic here and then go up. So the ferry is a much better option. The ferry ride, you catch it downtown, it goes through here. You can drive your car on it, So if you're like driving somewhere else into Seattle to work, you can still drive your car onto the ferry and go into the city. The ferry ride is an hour. They also have a fast ferry that's 30 minutes. The fast ferry does not allow cars on it though. So you're going to be walking on, and those spots are very limited. One thing to note with the ferries in Bremerton is when COVID hit, they like way thinned down their fleet. And so instead of 2 boats, now they have 1, which it used to run like almost every hour. Now it's like every 2 hours because there's only 1 boat. So it's kind of a bummer right now. It's supposed to be bringing back that second boat, hopefully this year. We haven't seen it yet, but that's something to keep in mind too. Like if your commute, if your work times are flexible, it's good. But otherwise, like that ferry times can kind of like, you're just living by those ferry schedules. So that is Bremerton. Number 6, we've got Everett. So now we're heading up north. So again, here's Seattle. We go up north to Everett, which is right up here, just right off I-5. Everett also has a naval station there. They're home to Boeing. They've got the Everett Payne Field, which they recently opened up to commercial flights. So that's been a big game change for people up north. Instead of having to go all the way down south to SeaTac, they can just hop on a plane right around here. It doesn't have like a ton of like flights and stuff, but it's something. The population of Everett is 110,000. So again, it's a pretty big city all on its own. They've got a huge public marina, one of the largest on the West Coast. They've got, Future of Flight Aviation Center. You can do Boeing tours. There's a lot of like aerospace, I guess. I don't even know if that's like the right word, but a big presence of that sort of thing up in Everett. They have their own minor league baseball team called the Aqua Sox. And then they've got a junior league hockey team as well. And they've really been working on revitalizing that downtown area again. Just more and more people are moving there because it's less expensive, and so they're really putting in a lot of like effort and money into bringing that downtown to a more like exciting area. They've got Angel of the Winds Arena, which hosts the hockey team that I talked about, and there's an ice skating rink. You can skate there, and then there's some concerts that come there as well. So the median home price in Everett is $588,000 for single family, and then condos are $364,000. So again, way more bang for your buck up there. The Everett has some like older historic homes like Tacoma does, but then also some newer construction. There's more new construction going up there. There's condos, and then you get a lot of like the mid-century and like 70s, 80s, like Rambler type of homes up there as well. School district rating is an A-. So that's one of the better school district ratings of these suburbs that we've talked about so far. So the schools are rated pretty well. Crime rating, they get a C. Again, property crime is higher than the national average. And then motor vehicle theft, they're almost 3 times the national average. So it's very, very high. But with all that being said, 75% of people said that they feel pretty safe living there. So take it with a grain of salt, I guess. And then one thing to note too is the light rail is planning to come up to Everett. Currently, it goes up to like Northgate area. It's in the works of coming up to Shoreline Mountain Lake Terrace, and then up to Everett is kind of like that last phase. It's not going to be until 2037 or 2041. It's still in the planning phase. So, I mean, don't hold your breath. It's going to be a while. But the commute from Everett to Seattle, you're looking about 40 minutes, an hour and a half. Not fun. I-5 is just like a nightmare. Getting into Seattle, I guess if you work like in the northern part of Seattle, it might not be as bad versus downtown, but still commute's kind of rough. But they do also have a Sounder train that you can catch up here, and then it cruises all along down through Edmonds. Again, it drops you off in like Sodo, just before Sodo, like the south area of Seattle. But that's about an hour ride on the train, which sometimes I think is better than sitting in traffic. At least you can relax on the train. So number 7, we've got Burien. So Burien, we're going to go back down south again. Burien's right here. It's one of the closer suburbs to Seattle. It's really close to the airport, so that's something to keep in mind. You can get, depending on where you are, it can get kind of noisy with the planes, like for housing and stuff. So if you're over here along the water, you don't get that airplane noise, but some of this area in Burien can be really loud, and they have like the airport package of like the double windows for the airport for the airplane noise. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're looking in the Burien area. But Burion's got a really thriving, cute little downtown. It's like this very up and coming area. Again, they're putting a lot of money into it. There's a ton of cool new restaurants that are coming to the area. There's a couple of breweries. They have farmers markets. Like it's just a fun little area. And then as you can see here, they've got quite a bit of shoreline. So you can find some really good views of the water in Burien. And then Seahurst Park is a really, really awesome park. It's this huge park right on the beach. I mean, it's just beautiful. So there's a good amount of stuff to do in Burien. The population is about 51,000. So kind of in between. It's like not huge, but still kind of like has that small town feel as well. The median home price in Burien is 665,000. So probably one of the higher ones that we've talked about. I think part of it is just because it's proximity to Seattle. It's like so much closer. The commute's a lot better. So the prices have just gone up a little bit there. Condos, you're looking at about 397,000. School district rating, it gets a B minus. So again, pretty decent school rating. And then crime rating, it gets a C. The property motor vehicle theft is almost 4 times the national average. So that's a big thing there. And 45% of people that were polled said that they feel pretty safe living there. So again, not the best stats for people saying how safe they feel in the area. So just something to keep in mind. And then the commute to downtown from Burien is probably one of the better ones. You're looking at about 20 to 45 minutes, depending on traffic. The light rail does not go over into Burien, but it does go to the airport. So you could, if you wanted to, drive over to like right over here in the airport station and take that up, which is about 45, 50 minutes on the light rail. And then if you drive, you're probably just going to take this 509 all the way up into downtown. That's about like 20 to 45 minutes, just depending on traffic. It really varies. But so you have a couple of options when commuting from Burien. So next up, we've got Bonnie Lake, number 8. So Bonnie Lake, now we're getting a little further out. So Bonnie Lake is southeast. So it's pretty deep. The commute is a pretty decent one. It's near Lake Tapps, which is kind of cool. Bonnie Lake's population is 22,000, and it's a lot more rural than all of these other ones. Like the other ones are very suburban. They all blend in. Bonnie Lake's definitely like further out there. Definitely has that more small town feel. Doesn't have much of a downtown, like the freeway that you see, like just kind of drives right through the town. It's got all the big box stores that you want. There's a ton of new construction going on in the area, just because there's like more open land to build on. So we've just seen a ton of these like new housing developments go up, which have been really popular, and they're pretty decent price too. So it's very small, very like kind of rural, suburban, small town feel, but it is growing rather quickly. The population is about 22,000, like I said before. So it's not a large city. The median home price, you're looking at about 575,000 for single family, and then 450 for condo, but there's not a ton of condos there. So those numbers are kind of skewed. It's mostly going to be single family houses. There's probably like 1 or 2 condo complexes in the whole town. So the school district rating, they get a B+ for schools. Crime rating is a C+. They don't have any murders. 86% of people feel pretty safe. So they rate pretty good on violent crime, but property crime, theft is like what they get a little higher on, which gives them the lower rating. So the commute from Bonnie Lake is pretty rough. You're looking at about 40 minutes to an hour and a half. There's not like a light rail or a sounder or anything to get you there necessarily. There is like public transportation, you take buses, but you have to take like 4 different transfers to even get there. And that's going to take you like 2 hours sometimes. So driving is really going to be your best bet. And you're going through a lot of these like back roads to get up there. So that's kind of one of the bummers of Bonnie Lake, but it's just kind of like trading that quality of life. You like being more in like the wooded outdoors and away from all of the people. Is it worth the commute to you? Sometimes for people, it is worth it. Okay, so the next one we are going to talk about, number 9, is Enumclaw. So if we pull that up on the map, we're looking right over here. This one, same thing, is deep in the wilderness. So it's kind of like this gateway between the mountains and in between Lake Tapps. You're pretty far. You've got Seattle up here. So it's far out for sure. The population is about 12,000 people. So definitely more small town vibe. They've got a cute little downtown area, but it's literally like one street, not a lot. There's a couple breweries, a couple things going on, very charming, but not super lively. The nightlife it's not a place for like huge nightlife. So it's got a really charming downtown. There's a large equestrian community down there. So if you're into horses and riding, that could be a good spot for you. They have an Enumclaw Street Fair every year. They have a car show. They've got a wine and chocolate festival. So they have a lot of fun little things to do, but it's definitely more small town vibe, definitely more single family, like suburban to more rural living out there, not a lot of condos. So median home price, you're looking at about $640,000. And then condos, which again, like I said, there's not many, you're looking at about $284,000. The school ratings is a B-, so pretty decent schools. And then the crime rating, they get a B. So that's kind of one of the better crime ratings that we've seen in some of these suburbs. They're lower than the national average for violent crime. Theft is what they're kind of getting bad at, and what ranks them a little bit lower is the theft, and the higher than the national average. But 67% of people polled said that they feel pretty safe living there. So the commute, that's the rough part about Enumclaw. You're looking at 1 to 2 hours, like easy. There's not really any public transit. You can take like public transit into Auburn and then take the Sounder up if you don't have a car, but that's going to be like an hour and a half, like 2 hours. So that commute can be pretty rough. But again, if you're working remote or maybe not having to go into the city every day and you want to live in that like more rural lifestyle, that could definitely be an option for you. Okay, so last one we're talking about, number 10, is going to be Mount Vernon. So again, let's pull it up on the map. We're going north again, and we're going deep. These last couple are far, but Mount Vernon's way up here. But it's the housing prices that bring it down. Mount Vernon is midway between Seattle and then Vancouver, BC. So if you like to go up to Canada often, this could be a good middle ground for you. It's definitely a small town. It's located in Skagit County. There's a ton of, like, you see the river coming through here. There's a ton of water sports like kayaking, outdoor sports. There's a lot of mountains, valleys, rivers. There's a lot of outdoor activity to do here. And there's a lot of farmland in the area. Out there, you can definitely find acreage versus some of these other areas you're not going to find. So this is like wide open spaces out in Mount Vernon. So the population there is about 35,000 people. So it's a decent like small town, but again, it's not like super suburban where you're just like close to everything. Like Mount Vernon's got everything that you need, but again, you're probably going to hit up like Everett, maybe, or even go up to Bellingham for some other activities. The median home price in Mount Vernon is about $500,000, and then condos are $363,000. Again, there's not many condos in the area, so mostly going to be single family homes, mostly pretty rural. You'll have like in town in Mount Vernon, but then further out, you can be pretty rural, and like you can find some really like large pieces of land and a lot of privacy in that area. School ratings, they get a B-, and then crime, they get a C+. So property crime is where they like rate higher on the national average, but 73% of people said they felt pretty safe in the area. So commute though, that's what's the rough part. There's not a lot of public transportation. You could drive down into Everett and then catch that Sounder train. But the commute's going to be about 1 hour and 10 minutes to 2 hours and 10 minutes. So again, maybe not like a commuting every day type of thing. If you're working from home for part-time, then that could be an option for you. Those are the top 10 most affordable suburbs in the Seattle area. Moving to Seattle can be tough, especially if you don't know the area, you don't know where to live, you don't know what's going on. So that's why we're here. We love hearing from you. We want to help. So give us a call, email, text. We got your back when you're moving to Seattle.